If you ever rent a house in the middle of nowhere and the owner leaves you a list of rules, read them. Not like, ha ha, creepy Airbnb vibes. Read them. I mean, really read them. Because if one of those rules says, if you see a person without a face, do not run. You don't laugh. You don't film a TikTok. And you definitely don't dare your friend to test it. I'm telling you this because one of us did. And now there are only 3 of us left to talk about that weekend. It started like any dumb college trip. 5 of us. Me, Tyler, Jess, Mark, and Lena. End of midterms, everyone's stressed, so Tyler finds this cheap cabin listing deep in the woods. No neighbors for miles. Big windows. Fireplace. Private lake. The kind of place that looks cozy during the day and cursed at night. The description was normal at first. Quiet retreat. Reconnect with nature. Limited cell service. That should have been red flag number 1. But then, at the bottom of the listing, under a bold heading that said, please read before booking, there was a list. 7 rules. We thought it was marketing, immersive horror vibe or whatever. Rule 1, lock all doors before sunset. Rule 2, do not whistle inside the house. Rule 3, if you hear 3 knocks at the back door, ignore them. Rule 4, keep the hallway light on overnight. Rule 5, do not look into the trees between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. Rule 6, if the lake looks closer than before, go inside immediately. Rule 7, if you see a person without a face, do not run. Jess laughed first. Okay, that's actually kind of cool. Mark said it was probably some viral marketing thing. Tyler booked it without even scrolling back up. I remember Lena didn't laugh. She just stared at Rule 7 longer than the rest of us. Why not run? She asked quietly. Tyler grinned. Because it wants you to. We arrived Friday evening just before sunset. The road getting there was barely a road. Trees pressed in from both sides like they were trying to close behind us. The GPS cut out 10 minutes before we arrived. And the cabin. It looked exactly like the pictures. 2 floors, dark wood, big windows facing the lake, no other lights anywhere in the forest. It was beautiful. Too quiet. No birds. No wind. No bugs. Just silence. On the front door, taped at eye level, was a printed sheet of paper. The same 7 rules. But this time, at the bottom, there was something the listing didn't show. A handwritten sentence. It is already aware of you. Mark said the owner was committed to the bit. Tyler opened the door. And the hallway light inside? It was already on. The second we stepped inside, the air felt wrong. Not cold exactly, just heavy, like the house had been holding its breath and we just interrupted something. Tyler tossed his bag on the floor. Okay, horror movie energy aside, this place is sick. And yeah, it was. The inside looked normal. Clean wooden floors, big stone fireplace, a long hallway leading to 3 bedrooms and a bathroom, stairs going up to a loft. And that hallway light? It was the only light on, even though the sun hadn't fully set yet. Jess walked over and flipped the switch off. Nothing happened. She flipped it again. Still on. Okay, that's creepy, she said, laughing a little too hard. Mark checked the switch plate. Probably wired weird, old cabin. Lena didn't say anything. She was staring down the hallway like she expected something to walk out of it. That's when Tyler remembered the paper on the door. Rule 4, he said casually, keep the hallway light on overnight. Overnight, Jess replied. It's not overnight. Tyler shrugged. Maybe it just stays on. We should have left then. Instead, we started unpacking. Dinner was loud. Music playing from someone's speaker. Mark cooking pasta like we weren't in the middle of a forest horror setup. The normal noise made it easier to ignore the quiet outside. But every time the music paused between songs, it was dead silent again. No crickets, no frogs from the lake, nothing. At around 8:30 p.m., the sun dropped behind the trees fast, like someone flipped a switch. And suddenly, Rule 1 felt real. Lock all doors before sunset. Tyler checked the front, locked. I checked the back door near the kitchen, locked. Jess locked the sliding door facing the lake. The glass reflected us back, 5 silhouettes in warm light. For just a second, I thought there were 6. But when I blinked, it was just us. Around 10 p.m., things started getting uncomfortable. Mark whistled while washing dishes. Not even a full tune, just random notes. Lena froze. "Don't," she said sharply. Mark smirked. "Oh, come on." "Rule 2, she whispered. He rolled his eyes. "It's marketing." And he whistled again. 3 clear notes. The sound carried strangely down the hallway, like it stretched farther than it should have. Then, knock. 3 slow knocks. From the back door. We all stopped moving. Tyler laughed first. "No way!" Knock. 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 Exactly 3. No one was near the door. No footsteps outside. No shadows through the glass. Just darkness. Jess looked at Tyler. "Dude, that's not funny." "I'm not doing anything," he said, hands up. Knock. This time, softer. Closer. Like it wasn't hitting the door anymore. Like it was tapping the glass of the window beside it. Lena stepped back. "Rule 3. If you hear 3 knocks at the back door, ignore them." Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. We just stood there listening to our own breathing. And then it stopped. No footsteps leaving. No branches snapping. Just silence again. Mark forced a laugh. "Okay, that's actually kind of impressive." But he didn't whistle again. And none of us wanted to look at the lake after that. Not because of the dark, but because something about the reflection in that glass felt like it was still there. We didn't talk about the knocks after that. Not really. We did that thing people do when something freaks them out but they don't want to admit it. We overcompensated, turned the music louder, opened drinks, started a card game at the kitchen table like we were in some cheesy vacation vlog. But no one sat facing the back windows anymore. Around 12:47 a.m., Jess checked her phone. "No signal," she said, "like none, not even emergency." Tyler shrugged. "We knew that." "Yeah, but knowing it and seeing it are 2 different things." The Wi-Fi network showed up, though. 1 bar. Name, guest. No password required. Mark tried connecting. It loaded for a long time. Then a message popped up. "Connected. No internet." "Cool," he muttered. "So we're just isolated. At 12:59 a.m., Lena stood up. "I'm going to bed." "You're not even tired," Tyler said. "I just don't want to be awake at 1. That's when we all remembered Rule 5. Do not look into the trees between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. Tyler grinned. "You actually believe this stuff?" She didn't answer. She just walked down the hallway. The light buzzed faintly overhead. At exactly 1 a.m., something changed. Not a sound. A feeling. Like pressure in your ears before a storm. Mark noticed it too. "You feel that?" The room felt smaller somehow. Jess turned off the music. And that's when we heard it. Movement. Outside. Not footsteps exactly. More like shifting. Branches adjusting. Leaves brushing against each other slowly. But there was no wind. Tyler stood up and walked toward the big living room window. "Don't," I said immediately. He stopped. "Rule 5. Jess whispered. He hesitated, then laughed under his breath. You guys are letting a printed piece of paper control you. He stepped closer to the glass. The trees were pitch-black silhouettes against an even darker sky. For a second, nothing happened. Then Tyler leaned in, squinting. Do you see that? I didn't want to ask what. I didn't want to know. But my eyes moved anyway. Between two trees near the edge of the yard, something was standing there. Too still. Too straight. Not swaying like the branches. Just vertical. Human height. Jess grabbed my arm. Is that a person? It didn't move. It didn't step forward. It just stood there, watching. Except we couldn't see a face. Not because of the dark. Because there wasn't one. Where its head should have had features, there was just smooth, pale nothing. Like skin stretched flat. Tyler's breath hit the glass. Okay, he whispered. That's not funny. It tilted its head slightly, like it hurt him. And that's when Lena screamed from down the hallway. Not a startled scream. A full, terrified, can't-breathe scream. And the thing outside moved closer to the house without taking a single step. Lena's scream didn't stop. It broke, turned into this choking, panicked sound like she was trying to say something but couldn't get air in. Tyler spun away from the window. What the hell? And when we looked back outside, it was closer. Not walking. Not climbing. Just closer. Like the distance between it and the house had been erased. It was standing at the edge of the yard now, right where the grass met the dirt near the trees. Still, perfectly still. Still faceless. Jess grabbed my arm so hard it hurt. We need to get her! Tyler didn't hesitate this time. He bolted down the hallway. Mark followed. That's when I remembered. Rule 7. If you see a person without a face, do not run. Tyler was already running. Full speed. His footsteps pounded against the wooden floor. The hallway light flickered once as he passed under it. And outside. The thing snapped its head toward the house. Not toward us. Toward him. Lena's bedroom door was half closed. We could hear her scrambling inside. Lena, Tyler yelled, reaching the door. The second his hand touched the handle, every light in the cabin went out, except the hallway light. That one stayed on, buzzing, flickering. The living room behind us dropped into darkness. The windows turned into black mirrors. And in the reflection, it was no longer outside. It was in the house, standing at the far end of the hallway, behind Tyler. Mark saw it first. His voice cracked. Tyler, don't move! Tyler froze. Slowly, like in a nightmare, he turned his head. And I swear, the thing didn't walk in. There was no door opening, no glass breaking. It was just suddenly there. Tall, pale, faceless. Its skin looked stretched too tight over bone, arms hanging too long at its sides. It leaned slightly forward, studying him. Okay, Tyler whispered, forcing a shaky laugh. This isn't real. The thing's head tilted the other direction this time, like it was confused. Lena yanked her door open suddenly and stumbled out, tears streaming down her face. It was in my closet, she sobbed. It was just standing there. She saw it, right behind Tyler. Her scream pierced through the hallway. And that's when Tyler panicked. He ran. Not toward us. Not toward the front door. He ran straight past it, trying to sprint down the hallway toward the living room. Trying to get away. The faceless thing didn't chase him. It didn't need to. The lights burst. Every bulb in the house shattered at once. Glass rained down. Tyler made it 3 steps past the creature, and then he stopped. Not tripped, not grabbed, stopped, like something invisible had slammed into him. His body jerked violently. Then he was lifted, 2 feet off the ground, held there, suspended in the hallway light. And where his face had been, there was nothing. Tyler didn't scream. That's the part that still messes with me. His body was hanging there, 2 feet above the floor, arms twitching like his nerves were firing randomly, but no sound came out. Because he didn't have a mouth anymore. Where his face had been eyes, nose, lips, it was just smooth skin, perfectly flat. Like someone had erased him. Jess collapsed against the wall. Mark whispered, "No, no, 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 no." The faceless thing stood in front of him, almost curious, its head tilted slightly, like it was comparing the two of them. Then Tyler dropped. Just like that. He hit the floor hard. The hallway lights stopped flickering. The thing was gone. Not fading. Not stepping away. Just gone. And Tyler wasn't Tyler anymore. His body was still there. Clothes, hair, hands shaking as he tried to breathe. But he couldn't see. He couldn't speak. He clawed at where his face should have been, making these horrible, muffled, gasping sounds that came from nowhere. Lena screamed again. Mark rushed forward and grabbed Tyler's shoulders. "Tyler! Bro, calm down!" But Tyler couldn't calm down, because something impossible had happened. And we were all still standing in that hallway light. Jess suddenly backed up slowly. "Guys," she whispered. We turned. At the far end of the hallway, it was there again. Not close this time, just watching. And now, there were two. The original one, and next to it, another tall shape. Same height, same posture, same smooth, empty face. Except this one was wearing Tyler's hoodie. Mark let go of him immediately. Tyler's body twitched on the floor, still trying to scream without a mouth. The second figure tilted its head, testing its neck like it was getting used to it. Then it took a step forward, not floating this time. Walking, slow, controlled, like it had learned something. Lena grabbed my sleeve. It copied him. That's when it clicked. Rule 7 didn't mean, don't run because it will chase you. It meant, don't run, because it replaces you. Jess backed into the wall. "We need to get out, now." "Rule 1, Mark said shakily. "Lock all doors before sunset." "It's way past sunset." We didn't care. We weren't staying. Mark grabbed Tyler under the arms. "Help me!" We tried lifting him, but he thrashed wildly, disoriented, blind, silent, panicked. And the copied Tyler? It was halfway down the hallway now, moving with perfect balance, perfect awareness. The hallway light flickered again, and from somewhere outside the house, 3 slow knocks echoed through the walls. Not at the door this time. Everywhere. Knock, knock, knock. And the real Tyler's body suddenly went completely still. Tyler stopped moving. Just like that. 1 second he was thrashing in Mark's arms, blind, silent, suffocating in a world he couldn't understand anymore. The next second, dead weight. Mark lowered him slowly to the floor. "Tyler?" he whispered. No response. No breathing. No pulse. Nothing. Jess started crying quietly. Not loud, not dramatic, just this broken sound like something inside her had snapped. And the thing, wearing Tyler's hoodie? It reached the end of the hallway. Close enough now that we could see details. Its body shape was almost perfect. Shoulders slightly uneven like Tyler's were. The small rip on the sleeve from when he fell last month. But the face, still smooth, still blank. It lifted one hand slowly, like it was practicing. Its fingers bent the wrong way first, then corrected themselves, like it was adjusting to the joints. "It's learning," Lena whispered. And then it smiled. Not with lips, not with teeth. But the surface of its face stretched outward slightly, forming a faint indentation where a mouth should be. Like it was remembering how. Jess grabbed my arm. "We're leaving, right now." We didn't argue. Mark stood up slowly, backing away from Tyler's body. The copied version tilted its head again. Then it spoke. At first, it was just static, broken sound, air forcing through something that didn't exist. Then, "Gee, guys?" Tyler's voice. Almost. Too flat, too even. Jess shook her head violently. "Nope, nope." It tried again. Why are you scared?" The tone was off, like someone imitating emotion without understanding it. Mark stepped backward toward the living room. "Front door, move!" We didn't run. Not after what happened. We walked fast, controlled. Heart slamming so hard I thought I'd pass out. The copied Tyler followed. Not rushing, just matching our pace. The hallway felt longer now. Stretched. The light buzzing louder above us. As we reached the living room, I glanced toward the big window facing the lake. And my stomach dropped. There were more of them outside. Standing between the trees. At least 4. All tall. All faceless. Watching. Waiting. The copied Tyler stopped at the edge of the hallway, just under the light. It looked at us. Then at the front door. Then back at us, like it was calculating something. "Don't run," Lena whispered again. Mark slowly reached for the door handle. Locked. He unlocked it carefully. The copied Tyler leaned forward slightly. Studying. Learning. Mark pulled the door open. Cold night air rushed inside. For the first time since we arrived, we heard sound in the forest. Leaves moving. Branches shifting. Footsteps. Not one set. Many. And the copied Tyler finally formed a full sentence. "You shouldn't leave." Behind it, the hallway light flickered violently and went out. The hallway light went out. Total darkness swallowed the cabin. Not dim, not shadowy, just black. The only light now was the faint blue glow from the open front door, moonlight spilling across the wooden floor. For a second, none of us moved. Then Jess whispered, "Go." We stepped outside slowly, still not running. The copied Tyler stood just inside the doorway, perfectly still, watching us leave. It didn't try to stop us. That somehow felt worse. The night air was freezing compared to the house. Real air, real wind. I could hear trees moving now, branches scraping together like bones shifting. Mark pulled the door shut behind us. Click. Silence again. We stood on the porch, staring at the dark yard. The trees were closer than before. I know that sounds insane, but they were. The clearing in front of the cabin had been at least 30 feet wide when we arrived. Now it looked half that. The lake, too. It had been down a small slope past the yard. Now I could see moonlight reflecting off water just beyond the grass. Rule 6 hit all of us at the same time. Now, if the lake looks closer than before, go inside immediately. Now if the lamb, now if the lamb, now if the lamb, now if the lamb. I rose. Now if the lamb, now if the lamb, now if the lamb, now if the lamb. Now if the lamb, hysterical. You've got to be kidding me. We just came outside, Mark said. Behind us. Knock. From inside the cabin. 3 slow knocks. On the front door. Lena's breathing sped up. It's not supposed to knock from inside. Knock, 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 knock. The door handle rattled gently, not aggressively, just testing. I turned back toward the yard. The figures between the trees had moved forward, not stepping, just repositioned. Now they stood at the edge of the grass. There were more than 4. I counted 6. No, 7. 1 for each rule. They were spaced evenly apart, watching us, waiting. Jess grabbed my sleeve. "We can't stay here. We can't go back in," Mark snapped. Behind the door, we heard Tyler's voice again. Clearer this time. "Guys, it's cold." Lena covered her ears. The handle turned slowly. Locked. Thank God. The lake water rippled. There was no wind strong enough for that. It wasn't natural movement. It was like something under the surface shifted, and the shoreline crept forward another inch. Rule 6 didn't say why to go inside. It just said to do it. Mark looked at us. "We go back in, slow." Jess shook her head violently. "Are you insane?" "Pick your nightmare," he said. "Faceless copy inside, or whatever is in that water." The lake made a low sound. Not a splash. Not a wave. More like something exhaling. The nearest faceless figure tilted its head toward the water, almost respectfully. That's when I understood. The things in the trees weren't the worst part. They were just hurting us. Lena reached for the door handle. Her hand trembled. Behind it, Tyler's voice whispered softly, "I'm learning." And from the lake, something began to rise. The surface of the lake didn't splash. It split, like glass cracking in slow motion. Water folded outward without a sound, and something underneath pushed up through it. At first, I thought it was just a shadow, a darker patch against the reflection of the moon. But shadows don't rise vertically. This did, slowly, deliberately. The faceless figures at the edge of the yard turned toward it in perfect sync. Not startled, not threatened, waiting. "Inside," Mark whispered. Lena didn't argue this time. She unlocked the door. The handle felt too loud when it clicked. Jess opened it just enough for us to slip through one by one. And the second my foot crossed the doorway, the knocking stopped. The house was silent, pitch black. No hallway light, no buzzing, nothing. We closed the door behind us, locked it, and stood there, breathing hard in the dark. "Phone lights," I whispered. 4 screens lit up the room in pale white beams. The living room looked normal. Furniture untouched. No broken glass from the bulbs anymore. Like it had reset. Like none of it had happened. "Where is it?" Jess asked quietly. We all knew what she meant. "Upstairs?" Mark guessed. "No," Lena said immediately. Her voice was shaking but firm. "It doesn't go where we look for it." That didn't make sense. But nothing did anymore. From outside we heard it. Not from the trees. Not from the lake. From right against the door. A slow drag, like fingertips sliding down wood. And then Tyler's voice again. Clear. Almost perfect now. "You shouldn't look at it." We froze. Look at what? Jess turned her phone slightly toward the door without meaning to. The light hit the wood paneling, and for half a second, there was no shadow where there should have been one. Something was standing directly against the other side, blocking the moonlight. But it cast no shape, no outline, just absence. Mark backed away slowly. "Don't open it," he said. No one was planning to. The dragging sound moved sideways, across the wall, across the window, toward the big glass facing the lake. The beam of my phone trembled as it followed the sound by instinct. And then I remembered Rule 5. Do not look into the trees between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. It was 1:42 a.m. Jess's light hit the edge of the window. Stopped. Shook. Don't, Lena breathed. Too late. The beam slid across the glass and illuminated something standing inches away on the other side. Not the faceless copy. Not one of the tall ones. This one had a face. Too many faces. Layered, pressed together, eyes half-formed, mouths overlapping, whispering in broken unison. And every single one of them was trying to become Tyler's. Jess gasped. The thing's mouths opened wider, all of them at once. And from every direction inside the house, we heard footsteps. The footsteps were at random. They were synchronized. One step, pause. One step, pause. Coming from the hallway, from upstairs, from the kitchen, from everywhere at once. Jess dropped her phone. The light spun across the ceiling before landing face down on the floor, plunging half the room back into darkness. Mark grabbed it and lifted it again. "Stay together," he said. His voice was shaking so hard it barely sounded like him. The thing at the window didn't move. All those layered faces pressed against the glass twitched and adjusted, like clay being reshaped from the inside. Eyes sliding. Mouths stretching. Trying to settle on one design. Trying to choose. Behind us, a floorboard creaked. We turned slowly. At the end of the hallway, shapes were forming. Tall. Still. Faceless. One. Then another. Then another. Stepping into the faint glow of our phone lights, I counted under my breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then, from the top of the stairs, something stepped down into view. The 7th. But this one was different. It wasn't blank. Its face was halfway finished. One eye socket carved in. A rough outline of a mouth. And a nose just barely raised from the surface. It looked like Tyler mid-transformation. Mark whispered, "There are 7. 7 rules. 7 figures." Lena's breathing turned ragged. "It's a cycle." The layered face thing at the window let out a wet, overlapping whisper. "Choose." All the faceless figures tilted their heads toward us. Waiting. Jess shook her head violently. "Choose what?" The half-formed Tyler stepped off the last stair. Its voice was clearer now. Stronger. "One must stay." The others remained still. Watching. Understanding something we didn't. Mark stepped in front of us slightly, like that would matter. "Stay for what?" he demanded. The unfinished mouth curved wider. "To learn." Behind the figures, the hallway light flickered back on by itself. Buzzing. Inviting. I finally understood the rules. They weren't there to protect us. They were instructions for survival. Break them, and you get replaced. Follow them, and you last longer. But the house still needs one. Lena started crying quietly. "It's like it rotates." The layered faces at the window pressed harder against the glass. Skin flattening unnaturally. The lake outside rippled violently now, light reflecting in broken patterns across the ceiling. The 7 figures took one synchronized step forward. Not rushing. Not threatening. Just closing the distance. "One must stay," the half-formed Tyler repeated. Jess whispered, "What happens if we all leave?" For the first time, every single one of them smiled. And I realized something worse than dying here. They weren't asking for a volunteer. They were waiting to see who would run first. We froze. Not because of what they said, but because we knew the truth now. Rule 7, the one we laughed at. If you see a person without a face, do not run. It wasn't just a rule. It was a warning, a promise. Mark's hands shook as he grabbed the doorknob. I can't stay. The half-formed Tyler tilted its head. Its single eye socket stared directly at him. The faint outline of a mouth moved, mimicking a smile. You will learn, it said. Mark hesitated. One last look at us. Then he ran. The hallway erupted. All 7 faceless figures lunged, not like monsters sprinting. They didn't need speed. They were speed. Every step Mark took was already predicted, mirrored, erased. A scream ripped through the air. Then silence. Lena, Jess, and I huddled in the corner, phones trembling in our hands. The half-formed Tyler slowly turned to us. 1 step, 2 steps. Then it stopped. Head tilted, blank, unfinished face studying us. I don't run, it whispered in that broken voice. We stayed, frozen. Minutes passed, hours maybe. The moon shifted overhead. Outside, the lake rippled, then settled. The trees didn't move, the wind didn't blow. Finally, it stepped aside, and Mark's hoodie appeared on the floor, empty. No one inside, just the fabric. The others didn't speak, didn't move, they didn't leave. They waited, patient, silent. We didn't know if they were waiting for the next mistake or the next volunteer. By sunrise, the faceless figures were gone, the half-formed Tyler too. But Tyler's body was still there, blank, silent, waiting. We didn't touch him. We packed silently, not a word. Every step we took was careful. Eyes averted from mirrors, windows, reflections. The house had 7 rules. We followed 6. We broke the 7th. And we left with 3. The forest behind the cabin was quiet. Too quiet. And in the rearview mirror, I thought I saw something in the trees. Tall, pale, faceless. Watching. Waiting. For the next mistake. Because the rules don't end. They just continue. And if you see a person without a face, don't run. What would you do if this happened to you? Comment below and let us know. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next nightmare.